again?
Yeah,
This is a wider view.
The official base is just at Longtown there. You see the odd 4-ton army green truck now and then, but yeah, the BAD base is just around there, signposted.
Right, so there's no big deal about that really, but the main area which you're talking about is down there. You can see on the screen there. Could you?
Yeah.
That's the oak wood.
Yeah, they've got landing pads for the spacecraft screened by trees and hedges. The cover story is Sandyside bathroom shop or garden shed manufacturer, but the cover story was that they were just foundations left from old demolished buildings, but the foundations are the landing pads, the concrete landing pads for the spacecraft.
Okay, welcome to part 2, Nick. Now, in part 1 I was being triggered, and you have got certain things which have happened to you, and you're talking about them frying your brain, but you also mentioned something about the Pleiadian technology.
Yeah.
So what the heck does all that mean?
Yeah. I've learned through telepathic contactee, but I've also learned through a couple of documentaries that came through Billy Meyer.
Okay.
Yeah, I read the book Light Years a long time ago, and then I managed to get a VHS copy of a documentary called The Pleiadian Connection by J. Randolph Winters.
Now, why are they important to you?
It was an interest, a hobby, so just like someone interested in chemistry would get a chemistry documentary, I suppose. It was just a hobby, you know, it was an interest. But the documentaries became important, links were made. But as I say, to me, you know, UFOs was just a hobby and interest to start with. And then all hell broke loose when authorities realised I was a contactee and things like that.
So how did that happen?
Pulled the documents from the Bristol Bufora conference in '93, brought them back to Carlisle, told the Air Force some of the plans.
What plans? What?
There was documents from America, the cosmic...
Top secret?
Yeah, Cosmic Patriot files. And the man that made, there was Commander X, he called himself, anonymous. And there was another document by Norio Hayawaka, or...
Yeah, Japanese guy, he was involved at the time.
Yeah, a civilian intelligence network in the States. I brought those up. He realised there was some serious crap going on. Thought I'd better tell the Air Force at Carlisle. So I've got the Cosmic Patriot Files 1 and 2, and it was something like UFOs, the Grand Deception and the Coming New World Order. Those are the documents I brought from Bristol to Carlisle, basically. I told the MOD police when the 14MU base was still there, and things went from there, I guess.
So what happened? Did they lock you up as a nutter or what?
They come to the college where I was doing my A-level resit. The ones that I passed with decent grades, they gave me the documents back. I suppose they did whatever they would do to their superiors and bosses, you know. What do they make of that? And the other half of them, I would say, bung him in the nut house, see if he's real or not or whatever.
Well, what did happen?
There was a male nurse there called Ron in about 94. I believe he gave me LSD.
So they did section you?
Yep.
Okay, and which institution did they put you in?
Right, it's now called the Carlton Clinic, just east of Carlisle City. It was called the Garlands way back. At the moment it's called Carlton Clinic, and there's a Hadrian unit there.
What's a Hadrian unit?
Yeah, it's just where various people with genuine or ungenuine cases get thrown for whatever cases they deem people have, if they have got a genuine health issue or not. So I had to get a solicitor. I won one medical tribunal.
So what happened? Okay, you won a medical tribunal. Mm-hmm. What was the circumstances that you brought, and how did you win, and so forth?
Yeah, well, go back to the start. The male nurse gave me LSD.
How did you know that?
I ended up getting appointments with clinical psychologists and psychiatrists. So I didn't know anything about drugs at the time, no interest at all in things like that. But my sister's a fully trained nurse as well, so I knew a thing or two about blood pressure and things like that. And they would come at you and say, here's your pill for your blood pressure. And I'll go, hang on, you did my blood pressure the other day and it's fine. So what are you giving me the pill for? You know, just through my sister being a nurse. Yeah, so
what happened? How did you know? I mean, what was the result of what was going on?
Right, the LSD, the male nurse Ron had a clipboard and some paper, and he goes, right, what can you see? And the damn thing was causing me genuine hallucinations on the unit in 94. I don't deny that.
Well, that's what they probably wanted to test for.
But I believe that was just to cover up all the sightings and stuff, you know. Or
what sightings?
All the sightings are mentioned in part 1.
Okay.
And the ECT was like every weekday for months. They would inject me with a general anaesthetic, put me under, and the metal probes were in a little bowl with water or liquid or something in the bottom. And when I'm in the general anaesthetic, they would put the probes to their temporal lobes or something, and that was the then called electroconvulsive therapy. Horrendous, horrible. Never want anything like that through them again.
So what was the result of this? What was their diagnosis?
They tried to say schizophrenia or some crap like that. Not hell in a chance at ever been schizophrenic.
And okay, you said you were a contactee. At what point did you have the contact, and did it repeat or what?
Yeah, well, after a couple of documentaries, I attended a couple of Quest International conferences when Anthony Dodd was there at Leeds, 93, and I got some of the Robert Dean ones after that. I learned quite a bit from 1 or 2 documentaries specifically. The Palladian Connection with J. Randolph Winters, the Robert Dean one, Cosmic Top Secret, and the Labyrinth Media one, UFOs, The Evidence. So I was building up my interest as a hobby as the years went on, you know. But now I've seen it, you know, just an interest, a hobby.
Yeah, okay, you're talking about a hobby, but what about your actual contactee experiences and what happened with your medical progress?
Alright, when I was doing my A-level resit at Carlisle College, the sightings out the window and everything, realised it was all real, and there was some kind of struggle going on between good ETs and bad ETs. That became really apparent.
How?
The Pleiadians were trying to help us with various things. They monitor a lot of things, telemeter discs, etc. That's all the Billy Meyer stuff. And the bad Zeta Greys are trying to figure out a slow takeover of her, trying to get around cosmic law in several different ways.
Now, where does it say that?
Several publications. We've learnt it through my own experience. You know, they held me down wanting to cut my arm off and things to make me like Billy Meyer. So
who held you down?
There's a big, I mentioned it in part 1, there's a big grey standing over that bed. My parents were downstairs cooking dinner and watching TV. I couldn't speak and I was paralysed. So they seemed to know I was going to have contacts with the Pleiadians before I did. So the William Hamilton documentary became apparent. I think it was, I still have it, America's Secret UFO Program.
Yeah, and that's all about those are all circa early 90s.
Yeah, and he mentions in the William Hamilton one, did he think there was any kind of a war to begin because of the occupation forces and other friendly forces coming in? And the quote on that documentary was, yes, it has already started, more noticeably in 1992. So the Americans know a lot of this as well.
Yeah, the Brits do, and all of it, and the Russians are all in there. But I'm talking about what your experience were. What did you experience?
Yeah, there's some kind of long-term struggle between Nordics and Pleiadians versus Greys, and I think it even goes back to World War II. That far back.
It goes a lot further back, obviously. But I mean, in terms of your experience, what did you experience and where did you experience?
When I managed to get back to Sunderland after the horrible year at Sandysyke, Longtown in 1999.
What happened in terms of being released? I mean, what was their diagnosis? What was the prognosis?
Yeah. Well, that was basically just their bullshit diagnosis to cover everything up. You know, if I managed to get a genuine UFO on camera, you know, or a genuine crop circle or whatever, they would go back to their notes. Oh, look at the LSD, the hallucination, blah blah blah. It's just the tablet he took and all that crap, you know. So
at what point were you released?
I was in and out several times.
What brought you back in?
I think they saw me as a lab rat for drug trials.
Yeah.
And they wanted to try and almost like in a George Orwell sense, you know, the 1984 book, you know, 2 + 2 = 4, you know, you'll stay in our mental hospital until 2 + 2 = 5, or we're not going to release you. You know, UFOs are not real. You know, UFOs are not real. You're sectioned, okay? You get that belief into your head, Mr. Sands, and then we'll release you. We'll deem you sane. You can go back into the community. Once we change your beliefs that UFOs are not real, and it's all sci-fi and bullshit and Star Trek and all that crap, you know. So in and out. They saw me as a lab rat for drug trials as well.
So they decided that UFOs weren't real, so that you were insane. Did you say what was their actual medical term?
Oh, they wouldn't budge from schizophrenic for years. I had to get a solicitor in the end. I managed to win one medical tribunal to the point where they were smashing in my solicitor's front door in the centre of Carlisle City. So I said, they're not after your computers, my solicitor. You know, they're after the files on me. You know, intimidating my solicitor.
Okay, right. You hand in some freely available information which you can get at any UFO conference at the time, or even buy online.
Yep.
And you hand that into the armed forces in Carlisle.
Yep.
And then they go and decide to put you in the nut house.
Yep. They needed to analyse it all, I guess, as well, you know.
Well, I mean, I don't want to hurt your feelings. They probably knew about that stuff anyway. If you can buy it at a UFO conference, it's not going to be top secret that much, is it?
There was some stuff from the States, though, as well. So I'm not sure, you know, I mean, there can't be those documents available at every single one of our bases all over sort of the UK, I guess.
Well, so what... So you were talking about, UFOs landing at nuclear power stations in the Lake District and things. I mean, is that all part of your fiction or what?
I don't believe I've...
You said something about UFOs like that.
Yeah, I've never seen a UFO land at a nuclear power station.
Okay, well, what was it you sort of... What is basically odd about the Lake District, or is there anything odd about the Lake District?
Yeah. Well, I keep going back to my studies as much as I can relearn from my digital files to try and get back into my environmental science, conservation, countryside management, planting trees, enhancing biodiversity, etc. in the Lake District.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they exploit that at every turn to try and shoot down more UFOs in the Lake District. So, in 2006, we began working for the National Trust. Our boss was called Geordie. He drove our minibus.
Yeah.
Every Monday we would have a group of us in the minibus going to Keswick mostly. Keswick and that surrounding area. And we would work clearing bracken off the fells or Derwent Isle. The National Trust owned Derwent Isle and they would rent it out to people. There's a house on there. So we would chop firewood for the bloke in the house on there, or he wanted to have more of a view of the lake from the house. So he would thin some of the trees and things like that. We were clearing some rushes by the lake once, and this jet just thundered right over.
Yeah.
And it was scary.
Yeah, I mean it's a training area, but it's a bit shocking when it happens.
Yeah. And then they would offer us a few leisure activities. We did kayaking on the lake a couple of times, and there was a Eurofighter Typhoon came in over the mountain range.
Yeah.
Wafer thin wings either side, you know, and that was going like that. I don't know what that was doing, but I would often just go off to the rivers in the Lake District and surrounding areas. You know, I have a great interest in rivers, you know. They will always put the light aircraft over the top. If they don't put the light aircraft over the top, pardon me, they thunder the tornadoes over the top, the GR4s and that.
Yeah.
So they're obsessed with just...
Well, they're training people. That's what they train you in, over the mountains and the highlands and things, which aren't too far away, I suppose.
Yeah. They always say training. They always say exercises. Blah 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 blah. Some of it might well be that, but I'm pretty well convinced that some of it's the illegal military field operation that they're obsessed with to get more UFOs.
So what what exactly have you seen in the Lake District to bring your suspicions? You talked about cave entrances and things or whatever, but
they were. I haven't talked about cave entrances. I think it was Scree Slope.
Scree Slope, but there's something up there that,
Yeah. I think it's Skiddaw, round about the Skiddaw area. If you look on the maps, there's a some kind of official sign on that. I hope it's still there. I'd like to get a photograph of it myself. Similar to the one we passed today, Miles.
Yeah.
So Air Cadets or blah blah blah. Yeah. I think it's Skiddaw around there. And they will. One time, Geordie was driving the minibus on one of the steep roads, and we nearly crashed into a heavy-duty dumper truck coming at us the other way. It was a really hairy thing. We really had a head-on collision with this dumper truck. You know? And I believe that some of the dumper trucks are to do with the retrieval teams.
Why do you think that? Why do you need? I mean, what experiences have you seen where you've got UFOs and things in the Lake District?
Yeah. Well, some of the dumper trucks will have a crane as well. So it's got its own crane. It could lift something from the side, straight over and in to the dumper truck. You know, under the cover of darkness or whatever, troop carriers and things. I mean, all these trucks are going past. You haven't got a clue what's in them. You haven't got a clue what's in any of them. You know, so.
Well, that's just the military. They've got to keep their things, you know, secret and whatever.
Yeah.
So what? You come all this way, Nick, to deliver a couple of hours worth of testimony about things. For what did you intend to say or do? What's you know? Because you're also lecturing at Probe in October.
Yeah. I've never had the opportunity to do that before. It's a great honour to
but
talk.
If you could imagine that this is now the Probe conference, what are you going to have in your lecture which is going to make people want to appeal to what's happening?
Make them aware that there's intervention. Make them aware that there are good ones and bad ones. Make them realise that most of them want to help. They monitor all kinds of things.
Who is them? Most of them?
Yeah. My personal experiences would be the Palladians, the Nordic types. With the telemeter discs, this all goes back to the Billy Myers stuff.
Yeah.
They'll clean areas of our oceans of pollution. They monitor things like the ozone hole. Some of them have like a green cloud type thing which helps heal parts of our atmosphere. There were cases in the past where DC, I think it was DC-10 aircraft. There was a lot of DC-10 aircraft coming out of the skies, and the engineers and the aviation engineers were trying to figure out why these DC-10s and things are falling out the sky.
Yeah.
And the conclusion they came up with, that the physicists were calling it areas of reduced bindings in the atmosphere.
Right.
And what was happening, some kind of metallurgical effect between the wings and some kind of fixings, different metals in these radioactive clouds was doing something to the metals of the DC-10s, and it was the radioactive clouds changing some of the metals, but not all of them. The bolts or the fixings or whatever were coming away, and then they were just crashing out of the sky. So,
what cases were these?
I think they were American DC-10 aircraft, and they come up with the radioactive clouds they called areas of reduced binding. Areas of reduced binding, and the repair job by the good ETs is some kind of a green cloud effect. I'm not talking about the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
No, or that's something different. Yeah.
So, what did you, when you came the whole way down from Carlisle, what was your intention to say? What's the number one thing you wanted to get across?
Most of the aliens are friendly, and they want to help us in several ways. They want to stop us making the same mistakes they've experienced on some of their homeworlds, particularly the nuclear power plants.
I mean, you're from the Lake District, and you've got nuclear power plants up there.
Unfortunately, one's been demolished. It was called Chapel Cross. Yeah, I think we mentioned it in part 1, or we mentioned it before part 1. But the Sellafield's still there. They had to shut Thorpe, but Sellafield's still there.
What do you mean Thorpe? How many power stations are there? The whole coastline of Cumbria is military, isn't it?
I wouldn't know that.
Virtually. Yeah.
I wouldn't know that, but certainly Sellafield is a very large complex, and they had to shut Thorpe down. Thorpe stands for Thermal Oxide Reprocessing Plant, and it was producing MOX fuel, which is mixed oxide fuel. They sent some over to the Japanese for some kind of fuel for the Japanese reactors.
Yeah.
The Japanese took their own readings, and they were alarmingly different. So I think the Japanese didn't use the MOX, or they sent it back. It's a good job the Japanese took their own readings, but I think Thorpe is still shut at the moment. So.
Are you saying that they were knocking off false product?
Don't know whether it was intentional or not. It's very complex science, but
well, I mean, you've either got a kilogram of nuclear nuclear grade stuff, but you're also saying they were making weapons. Somebody said some of the previous.
I think the weapons was made at Chapel Cross, but Chapel Cross has been demolished now. So, but the Sellafield.
What sort of weapons?
My uncle couldn't say that. So I have no idea what kind of weapons that Chapel Cross made.
Probably making weapons grade.
Hope not.
Well,
yeah, but they know that the Thorpe MOX fuel wasn't for weapons. It was for electrical generation. But they're on about moving some of the Sellafield operations to a new site further inland, and they're calling it Moorside. They're having big debates right now in Cumbria regarding that. Through my own studies, geography, etc., and just an interest in physical geography, and all that entails, volcanoes, earthquakes, and all that. I read about the Krakatoa case, and then found out something about Iceland. And there are big volcanoes at Iceland.
Yes, we know that.
And two in particular called El Hierro and Katla. And they were able to figure out that, similar to the Krakatoa event, could happen at Iceland.
Right.
I managed to figure a few things out. And
there's a lot of seawater or whatever is going into the fissures, which is going to blow up with superheated steam. I think that's the case, isn't it? The caldera, will it just blow up?
What I was able to figure out was the Cutler one, and El Hierro in particular. I mean, Cutler's about 27 kilometres. It's a massive diameter crater. Cutler about 27 kilometres wide.
Yeah.
And there's a problem there. It could do a similar thing that happened at Krakatoa. The eruption causes a landslide on the coast, because Cutler is on the southern coast of Iceland.
Yeah.
So if the eruption causes a landslide on the south of Iceland, that causes a tsunami.
Right.
And the tsunami could threaten our coasts big time. So fortunately they had the courage to put these warnings in the Daily Mirror 4 years after I warned them. But
so what did you do? Did you sort of write to them and say that you read in the newspapers that...
Yeah, I sent something to the BBC and asked them to pass it on, which they did. I got a phone call back saying thank you. So
you had a phone call?
Yeah. I was just glad that they had the courage to put it in the Daily Mirror, to tell the people these kind of problems could occur in the future.
Now, I think you told me at Probe that the Zetas, the so-called Greys, are dumping their radiation into our power stations. Some kind of a deal.
Right, it's not a deal, it's a deception. Yeah, they have power plants on Zeta Reticuli planets. They've got some part of their operation as a pollution, which they don't want anywhere near their planets or whatever.
Yeah.
So, as a deception, not as a radio wave, but as some kind of photonic transmission, it was called, photonic radiation.
Photon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a light beam.
They're wanting to grab all their pollution and send it into one of our nuclear power plant reactor cores. Our scientists would see it as a nuclear accident that's trying to get around cosmic law. And
but like the thing in Japan.
Fukushima?
Yeah, Fukushima.
I don't think it's the same as that, no.
All right. Well, where did you... how did this telepathic thing happen? Did you just sort of receive it one day, or what? What happens?
It's just stemmed from the Billy Meyer stuff, I guess. It's grown from all that, learning from the documentaries, and
yeah. So all you did was read those books, and then that you got this imaginary contact with these beings.
Well, they're not imaginary contacts; they're long-term telepathy, so long-distance telepathy.
And how many times does that happen?
It varies on whatever subject comes up, what they're monitoring, or. But I actually witnessed. I worked in a Nestles factory at Fordon in Newcastle briefly.
Okay.
When I was trying to do a master's degree in environmental consultancy, about 2004. And I was looking out the window at lunch break, and I actually saw a masked Palladian time travel ship in the sky.
Right.
I could see all the different details discerning it. It wasn't the Palladian beam ship, it was the Palladian time travel ship. And it was masked in cloud, but there was enough detail in the different shapes to differentiate between a regular beam ship and their quite fascinating, amazing time travel ship. They said that they will not share time travel technology with us because of our nuclear weapons.
Right, yeah.
but that yeah, it was there, and there was a contact while I was in the factory as well. Yep.
Okay, right. We're coming to the close of part 2, and what I want you to do is focus very strongly on exactly what ET sort of contactee stuff you've had.
Mm-hmm. Elaborate?
Yeah. Well, what experiences have you had in terms of seeing these other beings?
The bad ones prefer to try and remain in an invisible frequency which our eyes can't see, but the reptilians, you can notice, will have a diagonal flashing belt across there, some of them.
Yeah.
The bad Zeta Greys can have like white eyes, and the white eyes will crackle through into our optical human visual spectrum.
Yes.
It's like an electrical crackling or something, you know, but and I've seen that a couple of times. I reported that to Tony Dodd, and he began to report that in his quest work some time ago.
What ultimately do you feel that you want to say right now?
I wish our armed forces would stop the obsession of trying to shoot them down. I wish the reptilian occupation forces would stop their obsession trying to get the time travel technology. I wish the cover-up would end, because I see it completely and utterly pointless. And I wish they would stop sectioning people for their beliefs.
Right.
And I wish they would stop seeing civilians as lab rats for drug trials. I did win one medical tribunal with my solicitor. I wish they would stop latching on to every job attempt or job seeking attempt I get. But it is nice to be back home, beginning to do my conservation work once more. Biodiversity is very important to her. I wish the Defense Agency programmers, the CIA programmers and others would realise that mind control program is just a horrendous violation of human rights. And it's about time they realised most of the ETs are good.
Under what grounds do you say that?
Elaborate.
I mean, how do you know that? How do you know that those particular ETs are one set of ETs or whatever you want to call them are good and others are bad? What ratio? How do you know that?
Yeah, again, the Palladian friends I've made.
And when do you meet these friends? What happens?
Right. I don't meet them. It's always long distance telepathy. If the good Palladians were to try and beam down or shake my hand, etc., the retrieval teams always pounce on them or shoot them down. Or if
how do you know that? Where do you see the wreckage in a spacecraft or whatever?
Yeah, well, I've seen the two crashes. I've seen
which two crashes?
Yeah, the one at Sandy Syke in '99. Yeah, there was a further one in Northumbria we haven't discussed yet.
Where's Sandy what?
The base I was on for a year, 1999.
Yeah. What happened there? Was it a crash or what?
Yeah, we've discussed that.
Yeah, okay, fine. So just winding up on this.
Yeah. There's a second...
And there's a Northumberland one.
Yeah, there was a second crash when I was attempting to do conservation work in Northumbria. The conservation group was out of University of Sunderland. It went by the name of SEED, which was Community Environmental Education Development. And I seen that crash as well. We had 3 soldiers.
What do you mean you saw that crash?
Yeah, we're in the minibus again, trying to get to some conservation site.
Yeah.
There was 3 soldiers there. One was called Dave, one was Gary, one was Morris.
Yeah.
Dave had served in the Falkland Islands. Not sure where Gary had served, but he had the army pants on. And Morris, I think, was in just civilian clothes. The weather was really bad. I looked out the window, and there was a metallic saucer just came crashing down. And Morris went, "Yes!" like that.
It shot it down.
Yeah. Seeing it, this was in bad weather, but in broad daylight. Northumbria just came crashing down. And again...
So you were present at a shoot down of a flying saucer?
2. Yeah. But again, Morris is punching the air when it comes crashing down. Yes! Like that, you know. To me, making friends with these, to me it was like a family car crash. You know?
Okay, well, we're going to close out on that. Essentially, your witness statement has got a problem in that you've been sectioned, and that's so you've been officially labelled as what?
Whatever they wanted to put on me to cover it all up. But I ended up getting a solicitor and winning medical tribunal. So.
And right now, I mean, when was the last time you were in hospital?
Right. From sort of 94 onwards, the NHS would just see me as a lab rat for drug trials or cover it all up.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting a solicitor and a decent clinical psychologist called Doug Maisie. And there was a gentleman on the unit at Carlisle by the name of Brian Betterton, I believe. And they held a meeting to see what to do with me. I think this is about 2010. And they wanted to send me to a rehab unit in Darlington.
Yeah, you have rehab written on your hand.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's going to be part 3 miles. So they had a high-level meeting. They've got my solicitor, me, Brian Betterton, the big boss of the NHS, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, blah, blah, blah. What do we do with him? It's 2010. Do we leave him in this NHS Carlton Clinic at Carlisle, or do we try and get funding for this Darlington rehab unit? In the end, they decided that they would use NHS funding to fund the private Cambion unit in Darlington called Victoria House. I was very reluctant to go. Yeah. But in the end, they had to cart me off, so got 2 suitcases. That's it, away you go. We've decided that. But
so where does that leave you physically?
Well, the NHS had to go at me for about 16 to 18 years. The private Cambion unit had me for 15 months. And
this is all because you think UFOs are real, right?
Yeah. But in the short time of 15 months, the private Cambion unit acknowledged some of my information. I have paperwork now from there stating Mr. Sands has shown no sign of psychosis whilst on the unit. I have this paperwork. So from 16 to 18 years in the NHS crap, 15 months in the private Cambion unit at Darlington, home, right again on the road to recovery. He's not mad, he's perfectly sane. Mr. Sands has shown no sign of psychosis whilst on the unit. So
how long ago was that? So you're now sitting here giving a basis witness statement about UFOs.
Yeah.
How many years later? I mean, was it?
Yeah. The private Cambion Victoria House Darlington stint was 2012 for 15 months.
And then you've been going to UFO conferences ever since.
Yeah.
I've seen you at Extra Politics. I've seen you at the Probe conference.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're saying that you've personally witnessed 2 shootdowns.
Yeah.
With the Army.
Army, Air Force. Yeah.
What kind of things shot them down?
They have
a weapon or what? Or
yeah, they have laser cannons in the wings. I forgot to mention 2 aircraft in the thing. They don't just use the Tornado GR4s, the Harriers and the Eurofighter Typhoon. There's another 2 I forgot to mention, Miles. There's a black Tucano single prop. It's got laser cannons in its wings. And there's a Black Hawk jet aircraft that also tries.
What's a Black Hawk
aircraft? Yeah, not the helicopter, the jet aircraft. It's, you know, the red arrows?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar to that, where it's all in black. Yeah. So.
And they've got laser cannons.
Yeah, in the wings. Yeah, the Tucano single prop has come over my local village of Dalston when I was going to a river there, and there's crop fields at the side. I was just going to the river. My father's boss's office was at Dalston. My ex-brother-in-law worked at the Nestles factory at Dalston. It's got a beautiful river there, and there's crop fields there. And I'm just going to the river because I like rivers. And there's a crop field on the side there. Single prop Tucanos, 2 of them just swooped over the crop field. Whoosh, whoosh, like that. And I knew what they were trying to do because there's a crop field there.
So what were they trying to do?
Well, I was wanting to do another experiment with a crop formation. You said you don't want to talk about crop.
No, we'll talk about crop circles, but we just wanted to focus. So you're going to make another crop circle?
No, I don't. No. We need to. No, we need to realise the telepathic thing from me walking my dog at Grindon first, and then the attempt at Dalston.
And what do you telepathic? How do you know it's telepathy and not just voice to skull technology or something?
Well, they answered my request at Sunderland when I was walking my dog.
And just to recap, what happened?
Yeah, I was walking my dog at Grindon Hill, up at night, and it's quite a hill. I've got my flat there, and there's an army cadet office just at the bottom of Grindon Hill there. It's got railings all around it, and there's a crop field behind there. But it was black at night, and there's a little star intensity light, but that's moving about a bit, you know. So I'm going back to my documentaries. What can I do here? So I just directed a telepathic thought to this star intensity light. I didn't speak, I didn't shout, anything like that. It was a directed thought to this star intensity light in the sky. Will you make us a circle? And that's it. Finished walking my dog round the Grindon Hill, back in my flat. About a week later, in broad daylight, there's crop fields to the... Just get my bearings and my dimension here. To the south of Grindon Hill, and there's a perfect circle, and it even had secondary germination of the green. Some of the stalks are twisted and spiralled round, so it certainly wasn't Duggan Day with his...
Well, that might be possible to look up on the crop circle connector. Is something could you do that?
Right, I've got photos with me in my black thing of the crop formation at Grindon in broad daylight. I sent some to a Robert Hulse, I believe. They got through to him as well. So
who's he?
Robert Hulse, yeah. I met him at Holmfirth a year or two back. I think it was Robert Hulse.
Yeah.
So.
But who do you send to? I mean, was it? Why did you send to that individual?
He started talking to me in the audience at Gary Heseltine's conference at Holmfirth.
And what were you doing at Gary Heseltine's conference?
Yeah, it's, as I say, it's just my hobby.
Yeah, but okay. So.
Yeah, right. He was he had a camera set up and a tripod and everything, and I came back to there to carry on the thing, and he gave me a little card and everything, and he was having some kind of discussion with his woman. What do you come to this for? Blah blah blah. And I got talking to Robert Hulse, and I discussed this crop formation that I've got photographs of, and there's a hole there and everything. And I said the telepathic thing that came back after I seen it in broad daylight was that the good ETs were worried about the HARP installation and relay satellites irradiating the soil horizons, and it could damage the microorganisms in the soil. So there's a hole there where the soil's gone, and I've got photos with me today.
The soil had gone.
Yeah, there's like a square like that, and the soil samples.
There's a hole in the ground.
Yep,
How deep?
Estimate 6 inches to a foot. Yeah, I've got those photos here now. So.
Well, it's late. We're going to leave you down at the B&B.
Okay.
And we'll look at all that photographic evidence in part 3.
Okay, Miles.
So, if a troll says you're a raving nutter, what do you tell them?
Look at the evidence. Science has already proved it, I believe, with certainly you don't want to talk about crop circles.
No, we're off topic. We're ending this thing, right? Well, we'll come out and record on this, and we'll talk again in the morning. And thank you very much for coming the whole way down from the northwest of England.
Yep, Carlisle.
3 or 4 hours on the train. How long did it take?
Yeah, it's about 5.5 hours.
So you've 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
And you've got your experiences, and we'll talk about that again tomorrow.